Talk to everyone, even the naysayers.
What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Welcome back to the Wild Business Growth Podcast. This is your place to hear from a new entrepreneur every single Wednesday morning who's turning wild ideas into wild growth. I'm your host, Max Branstetter, founder and podcast producer at MaxPodcasting. MaxPodcasting. Sometimes the P comes out as a B. That sounds perfectly right. MaxPodcasting.com. You can hit me up at max@maxpodcasting.com to save time with your high-quality podcast. This is episode 196.5, Kiss FM, and today's guest is Kat Hantas. Kat is the co-founder, one of three co-founders of 21Seeds, the awesome, super crazy, duper cool, flavor-infused tequila brand that is blowing up and blowing up. They were acquired by Diageo and have a super unique story. And in this episode, Kat talks everything from starting the brand, what the process was actually going down to Mexico, finding a partner for the tequila, the whole distribution process, getting into retailers, and everything from growing the brand to vampires, which makes perfect sense, I know. It is Kat from Kat's Tequila, aka 21Seeds. Enjoy the show. Alrighty, we are here with Kat Hantas, the co-founder of 21Seeds. Really, really cool flavor-infused tequila company that is blowing up, just had an exciting acquisition. You can find them in more and more stores nationwide, and they're just so cool. Kat's got an amazing story. Kat, thank you so much for making time and providing so much tequila that I'm hammered for that. No, I'm just kidding. No, but thank you so much for making time today. How you doing?
I'm good. I guess I'm not doing as well as you're doing, but things are progressing nicely. I mean, what day is it? Is it Tuesday or Wednesday today?
It's 21Seeds Day. That's what's right. Most important.
Exactly.
But this is really cool. You what you're doing with your brand and your family and kind of the story behind the brand it's just fascinating. So we're gonna get to that. But to kick things off, can you share what probably is a dreaded story for many people out there, which is your doctor tells you to stop drinking wine. Take us in your shoes and what happened next.
Yeah. So again, this is me, and everyone should consult their doctor before they do any drinking at all. But for me, I was just having trouble metabolizing wine. There's a lot of organic living material in wine that just kind of goes away when you switch over to a distilled spirit, because a distilled spirit just doesn't have anything living in it anymore, right? You boil it, a vapor goes up, you cool it, and it rains down tequila. Kind of sounds kind of cool, right?
Yeah, that sounds like they could turn that metaphor into a Broadway musical, I think.
It's a song. And by the way, how many country songs are there out there about tequila? So it's nothing that we've thought of that's new and ingenious in any way. There were many others who thought about it before us, but that it would make a cool lyric in a song, rain down tequila. Max, are we onto something here?
I think so.
Are we writers of songs now? Should we take this whole act to Nashville?
I think so.
But anyways, so I stopped drinking wine, and the minute I did that, I was having sort of these headaches and kind of foggy brain, and it's just all this stuff that was not making me feel great. And the minute I stopped drinking wine, all that went away, and now it was sort of left with this Blanco tequila, distilled spirit, what am I going to do to this Blanco to make it as enjoyable to drink as that glass of wine was? Because like all of us, I'd had, tequila in college, and I couldn't even smell tequila. The thought of drinking tequila nightly instead of that glass of wine just felt A, aggressive for a Tuesday night, and B, it just didn't, it wasn't something I was looking forward to the way I was looking forward to the wine. So I had to figure out something to do to it to just really make it more drinkable. And I was, buying nice tequila, so it wasn't a question of, is it cheap tequila? And I love to cook, and I just started infusing it, and that completely changed it. Like it went from being sort of this harsh, kind of smells like alcohol spirit to something that just smelled so incredibly fresh, like the fruits and vegetables that I was infusing it with. It imparted just a hint of flavor. It wasn't sweet, right? Like a lot of flavored spirits tend to be overly sweet. And I never drank flavored spirits before that. So I wasn't really looking for a flavored spirit. And it was really smooth. And I could just put it in a wine glass with, some club soda, slice of orange. And literally and this is how I drink it nightly, one shot of 21 Seeds with club soda, slice of orange is 59 calories, which is half the calories of the average glass of wine. So it was like #winning. I not only wasn't feeling crappy, but I was able to relax and unwind with this delicious new cocktail that I had created. My seed and soda is what we call it now. And it was half the calories of a glass of wine. So I'm like, I'm in. So I did that for years and years and years. And just served it to, my friends and family, and people started asking me for bottles of it. If I was going to someone's house, they'd say, "Can you bring your tequila?" And I'd say, "Sure." And just notice a lot of people switching to tequila, for 9 years before I even thought about turning it into a company.
And did that homemade concoction tequila, did that have a name back then?
It was called Kat's Tequila. Everything we did back then, Max,
I would have never guessed that. Yeah.
And came out of a focus group.
and the homemade label said #winning on them.
Exactly.
And, the rest is history. That's really cool, though. I mean, you had a bit of a rough time and a medical scare, and then you got some advice and just started experimenting. And it's crazy that as you said, you did that for years before it became an actual business. What point did somebody tell you that you got to start thinking bigger with this thing and going just beyond friends and family?
I'm a big observer of people. In my prior life, I used to work in the entertainment industry, and one of my jobs was working for a management company where we managed comedians. And interesting thing about comedians is that they're very quiet in real life. Up on stage, that persona and all those jokes and making people laugh, they leave it up on that stage. And in real life, they're observers. And I found that very fascinating. I've always been a very curious person, and I was just observing a lot all the time. And I noticed that a lot of my girlfriends specifically were switching from wine and champagne to tequila. And if we were out at a bar or restaurant, so they were either asking me for bottles of my infused tequila, or if we were out at a bar or restaurant, I noticed that they would order tequila soda, 3 limes, tequila soda, a splash of juice. And they were drinking it in the same way that I was drinking it, as a spritz. And they weren't asking to have it neat, and they weren't sipping it. You'd seen all these new sipping tequilas that come on the market, but they weren't asking to sip it. They weren't asking to shoot it. They were asking to have it as a spritz. And so I realized that there was this entire new way to drink tequila. And that's really what I call this, is the first ever drinking tequila, that you actually can drink like a wine nightly, every night, as opposed to just on occasion in a margarita, or if you're out there doing shots to have one of those celebratory nights, say. This was a very different way that people were drinking it, especially girls I knew and guys I knew who were looking to drink less carb, moving away from beer, were also moving to tequila. And I just found that so peculiar, because no one was switching to vodka. They were all switching to tequila. And it was really armed with that I thought, what is going on in this tequila aisle? Because I was going in, buying the Blanco that I was going to infuse, and I wasn't really paying attention to what else was in the aisle. And so it was more about just seeing that so many people that I knew, and then even when I was at the bar, I noticed other girls that were ordering it in that same way too. So kind of armed with all of that, I thought, maybe there's an opportunity here. And then that's when I approached my sister Nicole and and both of our dear friend Sarika, who also were both moms at the time. We all have 2 kids, and said to them, "Hey, do you guys want to start a tequila company?"
Oh, nice. That's a good tagline, a good pickup line as well, I think. Hey. So that brings us to the official, past the unofficial, start of 21 Seeds. So the 3 of you teamed up, decided to make this a reality. What was the big first hurdle or thing you had to tackle to actually, turn this from Kat's Tequila to, what would become 21 Seeds?
So the three of us had no spirits experience. We did not come from spirits.
I thought you were saying you had no spirit, like you had no passion about the project. I'm like, come on.
We're actually vampires, Max.
Oh, yeah. I got the garlic. I got garlic and the steak around
exactly.
me. Yeah.
All vampires are drawn to tequila. So if you see anyone drinking tequila, they might be a vampire.
It does get consumed at night a lot. Funny you mention.
Max's public service announcement to the world is to bring me on to warn people about vampire drinking tequila.
Diageo is thrilled right now.
We basically, we didn't have spirits experience, right? And we were three moms, right? So not only did we not have spirits experience, we were three moms, and we had no idea, how to start. I literally said it to them, do you guys want to start a tequila company? They said yes right back without really giving it a thought, I think. They had my tequila for years, so they loved it. So in theory, it was a great idea. And once the first thing we decided to do was to go and hire a lawyer. We're like, we need to talk to a lawyer because we knew that spirits, seemed like, anything that's that good must be regulated, right? So we thought, this must be a really regulated industry. Let's go talk to a lawyer. And, lawyers are expensive and you don't want to skimp out on a good lawyer when you're dealing in a regulated industry. You want to make sure, you get what you pay for. That is so true. So we were very conscious about money back then. So we wrote down all of our questions on a list and we thought, okay, no dawdling. Like we're going to go in there. We're going to ask the question. Once we get the answer, we move on to the next question. No chitty chat. We're not making friends. This is not our friend. We just want answers. So we did that. And that was a great first place to start. So once we met with the lawyer, got a bunch of answers and we got a bunch of leads, right? Go talk to this person, go talk to that person. Then we went on, say, a 3-month, exploratory journey where we just talked to everyone that would speak to us about anything. And we found out just as much from talking to people who were discouraging us from going into the spirits industry than we found out from those that encouraged us to go into the spirits industry. So talk to everyone, even the naysayers.
What's an example of that? What's something a quote unquote naysayer said that was actually pretty profound and helpful? Yeah.
Well, so for example, he said he had tried to start a tequila company that failed. So he said
called 20 Seeds.
It was called 20 Seeds.
One short.
And that's when we're like, let's just add an extra seed. And then there's, right? So
yeah, and then you have the partnership with Count Chocula, and then
exactly,
there you go.
And then we're good to go. And then the Kool-Aid guy comes through the wall. So then basically he said, don't do it, and gave us a list of reasons why we shouldn't do it. And they were all pretty compelling reasons, but in his reasoning, in the reasons that he gave us, he accidentally or inadvertently, he wasn't even thinking about it, said to us, and then of course I hadn't registered my business in Mexico. And then when I went to import it, I was, I had to go back and do that, which took another 6 months. And after we hung up from that call, we kind of looked at each other, and because at this point, we were sort of further along down the road, and we thought, oh my God, even this great lawyer that we had hired hadn't told us to register, our company in Mexico, and you have to do that in order to be able to export. And so, if we hadn't had that conversation, we would have been in the exact same position as this guy in that one aspect of his business, in that when we were ready to bring the product to market, we would have had to wait another 6 months, which would have killed us because our very first customer was Bevmo and it was a very tight turnaround. So without even knowing it, just even that bit of advice really saved us. And, it was from someone who said, absolutely don't do this. It's really, really tough. It's a very competitive landscape. There are a million tequilas out there. Everybody's got one, even the big guys. So, how are you going to do it that's so different? And we thought, thank you.
Now, are you registered in Transylvania as well?
Correct.
No, I'm just kidding. I'll stop.
I know. They're like, enough.
There's always like three too far. Yeah, I'm not even obsessed with vampires or anything. Not usually until I drank this tequila. No. So that's a really cool kind of exploratory adventure you had, and you said that was 3 months. You learned a ton. Now I know part of your adventure, was probably somewhere around that time frame, was actually going down to Mexico and finding a partner that actually develops the tequila. Tell us about that experience.
Yeah, so there are distilleries in Mexico. So first of all tequila comes from a region in Mexico called Jalisco, and it has a designation of origin, just like champagne comes from Champagne, and cognac and brandy are the same, but
Yeah.
cognac comes from that region. So that was another thing that made it complicated, right? Is that we weren't trying to make vodka or whiskey that you could make in the States. We were trying to make tequila, which means you have to import it, and there's a whole other governing body that manages it down there. So it just made it that much more complicated. But we went down there, and there's a number of distilleries who will make tequila for you. That you can work with them as a partner, and they'll make tequila for you. And our focus was to find a distillery that was already making a tequila, a Blanco tequila, that was exceptionally smooth. We wanted a very, very, very smooth tequila. And our distillery actually does this extra step of chill filtration, which is something you really see it more in whiskey, to make sure that the heart of the distillation is super, super smooth, and anything that may have gotten, in from the head and the tail, which is the stuff you try to take out, if it slipped into the heart, the chill filtration will get it out of there.
Do they call that chill fill for short? Because they should.
Yes, they do.
Perfect. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. So it's a smooth Blanco with chill fill.
Super smooth Blanco. And that was the reason they were our number one choice. Some people want a tequila that has, grass notes or sweeter notes, things like this. Like, we wanted a very neutral based tequila because we were going to infuse it, and it's very light touch infusion. This is not like a lot of products you see on the market that look like orange, grapefruit juice, or orange juice, or limeade. It's like infused with flavor, but it looks like it's just flavored. This is actual infusion. And if you've ever, infused, say, made a sangria with white wine and you put the fruit in, it doesn't really change the color of the liquid. There's like a hint. So that's because it's very light touch. And so that's what we were trying to do. And when we got there, we were really excited too, because there were a lot of female employees at this distillery, which was really cool, which we hadn't seen at the other distilleries. And so we thought that was a sign too, right? I feel like there's always a bit of luck, especially having come from the movie industry before this career. There's always a bit of luck in everything, but in my mind, luck is just these things happen and present themselves, and you either choose to go down one path or the other path, right? And I think that when, as you go along the journey, if you keep choosing the right path, that's the luck, but it also is because you chose right, and so we chose to go with them. Now they also had to choose us, which was interesting because we were trying to do something very different. No one in Mexico was infusing at the time. And so this was like we had to do stuff at the distillery. And here we were, 3 moms, right, who had no spirits experience. And we're like, but taste it. See what we're making. It's so delicious. And the family that owned the distillery tasted it, and they loved it. And they were like, we're in. So it was really cool. So we all kind of embarked on this journey together. And the next thing you know, we were sort of off to the races. And we finally had found a partner who was going to make this tequila for us. But then that part, check. But now what? So now we have tequila. What do you do with it? How do you sell it?
How does that work on the production side? Like, do they send you like the raw tequila, or like?
No, everything happens there.
Okay, it all happens.
Yeah,
there.
It all happens at the distillery. So early
all the
on,
magic happens in Mexico.
All the magic happens in Mexico. And early on, and by the way, if you've never been to the town, our distillery is in the town of Tequila. And there's actually a town of tequila in this region of Jalisco.
I'm just visualizing billboards. Welcome to tequila, but
there's a
awesome.
big sign in the center in the square.
It's pretty fresh down
tequila. There. Yep. It's basically Disneyland for adults. So it's really a charming town. It's worth visiting, and also the whole region is just so stunning, right? Because if you've ever been to Napa or just a winery in general, right, where you see just fields and fields of grapevines, imagine that just on steroids down there, because agave, you know, it takes 7 years to grow an agave plant, right? So it's not like Napa where every year they harvest the grapes. You have to wait 7 years. So you have to plant like this many the first year, then move over to the plot next to it, this many more the next year. So it's just everywhere you look in this area of Mexico, it is covered from like the sky down to the ground in these agave plants, which are beautiful. And so it's really like the scale of it will floor you. And then of course the food is great, the people are amazing, the cocktails are delicious, so you can't go wrong. So all of you go out there and plan. Maybe that's where you should go for your honeymoon, Max.
Yeah, we might have to. We are drinking more and more tequila, so it's a good spot to be. But I'm like, I have chills or goosebumps or maybe both. I'll call them chill bumps, chill fill of you describing like the breathtaking scale of everything, because I've heard that. Like I recently went down just like you with observing people. I'm the same way with researching random facts and knowledge and stuff. And so I went down like a big wormhole looking up stuff about tequila recently and looked up videos of them like chopping up the agave plant and like, you know, taking out the piña and like the, you know, the core of it and all. And it's like they have to, like it takes, I forget what the numbers are, maybe you know, but like the amount of plants it takes to like actually produce tequila is insane. Like it takes up so many, it's so many plants and requires so much land in order to do that, which obviously they have down there. But like, it's really cool. Unfortunately, the only, I guess, image I have of like endless rows of agave is through watching Narcos, which is a fantastic show. But I would love to see it in person one day.
Yeah, it's really worth seeing. It's worth visiting. So they make everything for us, and then we import the finished product. So we spent a lot of time again going down there and, you know, working with them to make sure that the product was just right, the way that we wanted it and all of that sort of thing. And then, you know, ultimately we were able to have a finished product and import it, and then it was just now up to us to sell it.
Perfect. Yeah, which no problem at all, right?
Exactly.
That's the production side of things. Like developing a product or developing a beverage is a really interesting space, because, and anybody who's worked in like the CPG world knows this as well, but like you have the end consumers, which is obviously really important, and like that's who your target is, that's who you're talking to, that's who you create this for. But then also like they're never going to get it if it doesn't get into the customers, like the retailers first. So in terms of those actual customers, like the stores that you sell this to, how did you win your first big customers?
We basically just harken back to who's our customer, right? Like you said, right? Our ultimate customer, who's going to buy this off the shelf? And we started with what we knew, right? We had limited marketing dollars. So I think it's really important to know who your customer is. That's like one of the most important things before you do any of this. It's like, who's your customer, and what are they willing to pay for it, and what are they not going to buy instead? Right? Like, because they're not going to buy two things. People always think that, oh, this is such a great product, they're going to buy the product they normally buy plus our thing. And right. That's just a losing proposition, dead on arrival. Like,
yeah, everybody's got cash burning a hole in their pocket, you know? Like, why not?
Yeah, I want to try everything on the planet, you know? So it's like, so you really have to focus on that consumer and just making that consumer aware of the product, and then getting them to like change their mind to buy your thing instead and to try your thing instead is a Herculean task. So we were super, super, super focused. And again, we had spoken to a lot of people about how the spirits industry works. And spirits is it's even harder than wine and beer, because with wine and beer, you can sell direct. Like you can go into a winery, taste the wine, and then get on their mailing list and buy wine directly from them. You don't have to buy it from a retailer, just directly from the winery or the distillery for the brewery for beer. With distilled spirits, you know, like tequila, vodka, whiskey, you can't do that. And so we have to sell it to a distributor. The distributor sells it to the retailer, and then the retailer sells it to you, the end user. So that was problematic for us, because our end user, ultimately, we were focused on women, because we'd noticed, again, so many women switching from champagne and wine to tequila. So we said, okay, and this is how we were drinking it. So we're like, we know ourselves, we know how we shop, we know where we shop. Like, let's just focus on that, because we don't need a focus group to tell us where we shop. The other interesting part, though, about spirits is there's where you can buy it, and then there's sort of like, how do people discover spirits, right? And traditionally in the spirits industry, where people discover spirits, where they taste it first before they buy a whole bottle, is in a bar or restaurant, right? You're at a bar, you're at the, sitting at the bar, and the bartender is, say, pouring some whiskey you've never seen before, and you're like, oh, tell me about that whiskey, and then they tell you about the whiskey, and then you say, I want to try it, you try it, and you're like, oh, that's pretty good, and then you buy it.
Were you at the bar in Hoboken last night? How'd you know that? No.
I mean, I had you, there was a body cam on the guy next to Max, and so I have all that footage, and I'm talking to your bride later, and we're gonna go through that footage together with some 21Seeds Tequila.
Oh, did not mean to open a can of tequila worms here. Mezcal worms. Yeah.
21 cans. So anyway, so basically we were like, okay, first of all, that whole scenario is amazing, but that's not what happens with female drinkers, right? That story, is probably what happens with male drinkers, but women do not discover brands in bars and restaurants. Women discover all brands, doesn't matter what the brand is, from what I like to call this outer premise, which is this online universe of stuff they're reading, whether they're reading online, whether they're listening to something online, a podcast, whether they're getting friend recommendations on Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest. Like, I'm sure your bride has a Pinterest board for your wedding of everything pinned on it, and you go over it like on a bi-weekly basis.
She's quite active on her phone. Yes,
exactly.
Yeah,
Always on the
lots
phone.
of inspiration stuff.
Exactly. And that's where women discover brands. So we decided we weren't going to really focus on the on-premise, which is bars and restaurants, right? We were going to let her find out about our brand, make her aware of our brand, where she actually discovers brands, which is this outer premise. So that takes care of that piece of it. And then in terms of where she could buy it, we said, okay, we were in California. We launched in California. We had a contact, like we knew a friend of a friend of a friend who knew someone who used to work at Bevmo. So that was exactly how many points of like, what's that, Kevin Bacon, like 8 points of reference or whatever.
21 seeds of connection.
21 seeds of connection to someone who used to work at Bevmo. So
of separation, that's what it is. Yeah.
Right. But that guy had saved this guy's life. So the guy that we knew that knew the guy that used to work at Bevmo had like saved this guy's life. So we're like, you're calling this favor in and you're going to get us a meeting with Bevmo. And at the time we didn't know anything about windows, and there are these windows that they order in. And if you catch them in the window, that's great. If you don't, you don't. So again, we got very lucky because we happened to catch them in one of those windows. And also good timing on our part in that the Kettle Botanicals had just, recently come to market, and those were very successful over in the vodka aisle. So we got in front of the Bevmo buyer, and, they tasted the product and it was delicious. So at the end of the day, 21Seeds infused tequila is delicious. And that's first and foremost. Like, if it's not delicious, all this other stuff is great, but it's not gonna get you reorders, right? You might get someone to try it, but it's not gonna get them to keep buying it. So we get in front of the Bevmo buyer, and they said to us, listen, these are really delicious, and you guys are new, so we think we could probably, we might bring in 1 or 2 of the SKUs. We have 3 infusions, right? We have Valencia orange, cucumber jalapeno, and grapefruit hibiscus. And they tried them all. They're delicious. And they said, though, you're new, though, maybe 1 or 2 in, say, our top stores. And they have 146 total stores in California. And when we got the PO from them, we were actually down at the distillery doing our first production run. And we looked at the PO, and we thought it was a mistake because they brought us into all 146 stores, all 3 infusions.
Oh my God.
And so we were like, oh my God, that's like our entire first run. And we got to get it there stateside. We got to get it across the state, the border, customs, all that stuff, and get it on shelf. Because once you get the order from the big guys, it's like the turnaround is pretty quick. So we were freaking out. We didn't even have the website up. We didn't even have website photos. I got really sick because I ate ramen at a gas station in Mexico, which I don't recommend.
I think there's a commercial about that. Yeah.
I look over and one of the folks traveling with us, he's like, he's eating like a pound cake out of like cellophane. I'm like, what are you doing for lunch? You're gonna have a pound cake? He's like, and I'm like, like sucking every last drop of ramen out of the cup. And he's like, I just don't think they're filtering the water here, Kat. And I'm just like, why would you let me eat this?
Oh God.
The next thing you know, it was like not good. But anyway, we survived all that and we were able to get the order into Bevmo, and that was our first customer. So we were off to the races. You know, we knew how to find her in this outer premise, in this online media universe. And then, you know, we could direct her on where to go buy it. And at that point we had a few, you know, retailers that sold at Bevmo, and there was one retailer that could ship. So, you know, they could ship to, I think it was 11 states or something. So we were able to like start getting it beyond just my immediate group of friends and family.
Right.
And that's another
Crossing
thing.
state lines.
Yeah. And also just like to entrepreneurs out there, you know, it's important to know if you've really got a business or not. You got to wait till you get more than, you know, 100 customers. Cause like between your family, your friends and their friends, that's like 100 people, you know, you got to go beyond that to see if this thing's got legs, you know?
Yeah. That goes back to your earlier point. I think that feedback again is so helpful, and obviously feedback from family and friends is super helpful, but like if you get feedback from strangers or like people trying your product that that maybe they're like your friend's cousin's ex-friend, whatever your connection was, that maybe is even more valuable, because then there's like absolutely positively no bias towards like you or something you created.
Exactly. That's exactly right. I mean, and in the 3 years now that we've been in market, we've sold, I think, over 1 million bottles of 21 Seeds now at this point. And
nice. Congrats.
Thank you. And the thing is about it, we've probably in that amount of time maybe gotten like 8 complaints of just like on shipping, if anything, you know. I mean, we really have such an amazing fan base and loyal. Our customers are so fantastic. In fact, we just got invited to our first wedding by one of our customers who's such like, they love 21 Seeds so much that they're like, we want to have you guys at our wedding. So they invited us 3 founders to the wedding. It's an amazing community. And I love our community. We call them our Seed Squad. And they're just the coolest. They send us photos. I love recipes. I do all our recipes, make all our recipe for the cocktails and stuff. And I'm always looking to just put less in there. You know, with 21 Seeds, it's already so smooth. It's already got just this incredible hint of flavor. It smells amazing. You really don't have to do much to it, but I do love cocktails, and I love pretty cocktails. And, you know, I like taking the flavors of certain cocktails and then putting in less of the liqueur and the sugar and all that stuff, just so that you can feel better the next day, you know, enjoy, but still feel better the next day. Save room for the wedding cake.
Yes, absolutely. Always essential. What feedback have you heard from customers, and maybe it's just people in the industry that you've worked with, about why this has taken off so much? Like the story you're talking us through, like all this stuff, you know, in the grand scheme of starting a business, like this is all happening really, really quick. And obviously you got some more exciting news that we're going to talk about, but why do you and people think things are working so well?
I think a big reason was because we hit really every trend that unknowingly, really, right? Like I created the product, and I do believe this is, if you look back on, you know, breakout brands, right? That really just that did what we did, right? They came on, they hit the market, they exploded, and then there's like a big amount of success in a short amount of time. I think it's because that person who created it was like really trying to solve one person's need, like a need for something. And it was really looking at every pain point of that one customer, right? And in doing that, you inadvertently sort of solve and tap into trends that are going on for many, many people, but you don't really realize it because you're not consumed with all the noise of like trying to solve all those. You're not like, oh, what's going on over here? Maybe I should go chase that. What's going on over there? Maybe I should go get into that business, or look, everyone's doing this over here. I'm going to go try to do that. I wasn't thinking about any of that, right? I was like, anyone you talk to who knows me knows I am obsessed about my coffee and my cocktails. Like what I'm a liquids person. I'm not as much a food person. That's my brother-in-law, Frank, my sister's husband. He's the foodie. I am a liquids person because it just drives me bananas. The idea that like I would drink something that is going to have calories, because I already feel like there's like, that's just extra calories. It's almost like it shouldn't count because it's liquid. You're not actually chewing it. That's why I could never do a liquid diet, because I'm like, I need to eat my food and then drink my drinks. And I want my drinks to be perfect because I don't want to waste a single extra calorie on something I'm drinking. So like my coffee, I need it to be really hot. And all my friends know it's like, I have gone through so many coffee cups because I feel like they're not designed right. You know, I feel like either the lip is too thick and so it drips on the outside of the coffee cup, or it's like a bowl and so all of the heat escapes and so I'm obsessed with the temperature of coffee and I won't drink it. If it's not hot, I'll send it back. And so same is true with my cocktails. So when I set out to make something that I would enjoy as much as I was going to enjoy that glass of wine, I really thought about all of it, including how easy it is to serve 21 Seeds, right? Like I don't want to have to fuss over a crazy cocktail every time I just want to pour, you know, something that I'm going to finish my night off with to relax my mind. I want that signature serve, our seed and soda, to be so easy. I don't have to do math. I don't need a jigger that has like ounces and, you know, like has 4.5 ounce. Like no one has that in their kitchen. I don't want to have to go out and buy new equipment to make a cocktail at the end of my night. I want it to be easy. And so I really was thinking about every one of those pain points, including the price, right? Like, could we charge more? Could we charge, $100 a bottle for 21 Seeds? And would our consumers pay for it? Yes, they would, because that's how much they love 21 Seeds. But again, we don't need to do that, right? Like we priced it at the right price that was affordable. It's like an affordable luxury, So I really thought about, the three of us thought about every one of those pain points, stuff I wasn't thinking about. Nicole and Sarika were like chiming in on. So that was number one. Now, in doing this and bringing this market to product, we happened to there were a lot of trends we hit, probably because I was drinking on trend, like everyone else, my palate had shifted. I wasn't looking for really sugary 8-ingredient cocktails anymore, And look at ready to drinks, right? They're 100 calories, right? So I think people wanted less in their drinks. They wanted them to be less complicated. The spritz had exploded. So we tapped into that spritz, occasion, and the spritz as a serve. The wellness trend was, well underway. Being female founded, was a trend. Being a tequila, agave spirits were on trend. That's where everything was going. So we hit all these trends kind of unbeknownst to us. But again, I was just basing it on how I was drinking and what I was observing. So of course I'm observing things that are trendy, because that's what makes a trend a trend. Everyone's doing it. So, we just kind of tapped into everything at the right time. But again, Max, at the end of the day, because I was creating a product that I wanted to be able to order in the store and in a bar or restaurant for the rest of my life, I needed to make sure, like, I wasn't going to bring it to market and unless the three of us, me, Nicole, and Sarika, could make it amazing. It had to taste like what I was making at home. Otherwise, I wasn't interested in doing it because it wasn't solving my ultimate problem.
Right, exactly. You don't want to spend a bunch of time and money and have a shitty product. Are you kidding me? What's wrong?
Imagine that.
You have this magical mix of things and trends and ingredients and product launches and customers with a very distant connection to you. Fast forward, and you are now being acquired by Diageo, which I don't know. Am I pronouncing that right? Diageo?
You
Perfect.
are.
Cool.
You pronounce it perfectly. Diageo.
Awesome. I've been practicing all morning, so good thing. It's coming in handy. That in Transylvania.
When you had George Clooney and Ryan Reynolds on the show, they didn't teach you how to pronounce it?
That's actually right after you. So yeah, we're gonna do. We'll get to their tequila and gin story.
Ladies first, right? Ladies first.
Yeah, exactly. We'll do 21 A-list actors after this. But now I lost my train of thought. You got me with Clooney. Clooney always gets you. No,
he gets you. Starstruck.
Oh, so you're being acquired by Diageo, which for anybody who's not familiar, their list of brands is like the most impressive thing I've ever seen. Like basically like every well-known brand in the spirits and the beverage space, like odds are like it's from Diageo. So really, really cool. Congrats on that. When did this come up that you might want to get bought up by one of the bigger guys like this? Which is a raw way of putting it, but
No,
it's
totally.
a very exciting thing.
It's super. Listen, we are ecstatic. We're so stoked because now with Diageo, and you nailed it, Max. They are the biggest spirits company in the world, and the reason why they're the biggest in the world is because exactly what you mentioned. It's the best brands. They buy the best. They buy the best brands, and they have this incredible reach, and infrastructure that it would just take us years and years and years and years, like, 20, 30 years to build and to gain that sort of reach and infrastructure. And so, originally they were really onto us from the start. Like they taste everything. They pay attention. They're observers too, right? So, and so did the other big guys too. They weren't the only ones who, came knocking. But the thing was with them is they were the first, really early on, just less than a year in market that we'd been in market. They came and had a conversation with us. And at that point, we weren't ready to sell to them because we just felt like there's still so much. We haven't even proven to ourselves that, the market that we believe is there for us. And we wanted to make sure that this brand had found its community first, because I think so often like brands, they don't take the time, and community doesn't happen overnight, right? We were in market for 3 years before we sold. And over the course of those 3 years, we spent a lot of time nurturing the community that we had created, our Seed Squad. And, we have an email subscriber list of 80,000 women, that we email on a weekly basis, like with cocktail recipes and ideas on how to, this is coming up, it's Valentine's Day, or it's Friendsgiving, or, here's a big batch idea for Mother's Day. We wanted to make sure that it had this sort of groundswell, like really intense group of folks that were behind the brand first. And that, we were where we wanted to be. And at this point, we were in so many of the national chains, so our consumer could buy it everywhere. But now we were really like, okay, that's done. Now we do want to tackle, the on-premise, the restaurants and the bars, and all those smaller, individual liquor stores and wine and spirit stores that just require so much, so many feet on the street and so much infrastructure to actually do right? Because especially in the bars and restaurants, like our hope is that, you see our cocktails on menus done lighter, right? With less in them, which is really, I think, the way that consumers want to be drinking, right? And so that they can have a couple drinks, have a good night, have fun, and feel great the next day and come back and want to do that again, right? And so that requires training and really personnel. At that point, we sort of had a moment where we thought, okay, we could go out and raise just a bunch of money and do that, or we could, and we still then have to hire all those people and do all of that, and we're still not going to do it as well as Diageo does it. So we thought, let's just partner with them. And they were fully, we're still here. We're still absolutely involved with the brand. All three of us founders and some of our initial team is actually going over to Diageo, which is really exciting.
Oh, wow.
And
that's awesome.
Yeah. And so we're all still with the brand. We just have now this entire machine behind us to help us reach all those consumers.
To put it lightly, yeah.
That we couldn't reach before, and go international, and take 21Seeds overseas, which is so exciting because, Nicole, my sister, and I moved here from Greece when we were kids. We moved here when I was 5 and my sister was 3. And so we're so excited. We have tons of relatives in Greece. We go back to Greece as often as we can. And they're so excited to have 21Seeds in Greece. And so we're thrilled at the idea that we'll now be able to not only get it to everybody living in the States, but also start branching out overseas and make this like a global brand, which is really cool.
Grease lightning. They should put that in a movie. If you would be interested in podcast lightning, which also should be put in a movie as well, or maybe at least in a podcast, hit me up at max@maxpodcasting.com. I can help you save time with your high-quality podcast and help you bring it to life if you don't have one already. I've been doing this for quite some time, both on the hosting side and the editing side, and I'm sure I can help answer your questions and also take loads and loads and loads off your plate in the process. Hit me up at max@maxpodcasting.com to bring that beautiful and maybe Greek food-focused podcast to life. Now, let's wrap this baby up with some lightning fast rapid fire Q&A. It's that fast. I swear. Let's wrap up with some rapid fire Q&A. You ready for it?
Yeah.
All right, let's get wild. Let's join the Seed Squad. What is the meaning of the name of 21 Seeds?
We are two sisters, one girlfriend, and Seeds is just the planting on things to come, and everything that goes into 21 Seeds is natural, and we want to spread the love and spread the celebration and plant the seed.
Oh, that's so cool. That's all. I think me, like, I'm sure many others, like, when you see the name, it's like, is there like a fruit or a plant or something that has like 21 seeds in it? I didn't realize it's almost more like a metaphorical meaning behind it.
Totally.
So that's awesome. Cool. Now we can start the interview over again and we'll go that direction. Now, when you are, and if you are ever able to have some free time and, not check emails and kind of take your head off the business for a little bit, what is your favorite, we'll call it a creative hobby?
You're going to think so much less of me, but I go down the TikTok wormhole. Like, I just get lost in TikTok.
I think more of you.
So impressed with what people are doing on TikTok. Like, so impressed. I find, like, that's like my new research. I used to be a YouTuber, but now I'm all about TikTok. It's just snackable. It's so much faster, and you can get lost in it. It's amazing.
It's certainly, yeah, it's like the first time I experienced it, I was like, this is, like, all of a sudden Instagram just felt like old, like outdated because TikTok moves so crazy fast. So yeah, that's great. On that note of observing, you mentioned that you worked in the entertainment industry, you observed comedians. Other than, as you said, a lot of comedians being surprisingly quiet, what's something about comedians that you think people would be surprised by that was pretty clear when you were observing comedians?
Well, to be honest, like, that surprised me even. I think most people think that when they come off stage, they are ready to have a conversation and they're going to be just as lively and, boisterous. And you're actually bracing yourself because you want them to rip on you. Like, roast me, say something funny about me.
It's got to be super tiring to crack jokes all the time. Like, you got to...
They truly
it's exhausting.
Yeah, they don't talk. They really come off stage and say nothing. Like, it's actually not fun. That's the thing you might not expect. Don't try to get backstage passes to a comedy show because you will be disappointed. You're better off getting backstage to like a music festival. You're going to have more fun.
Yeah, it's going to be much more entertaining on the front stage passes. What is a super cool place to visit in Greece that maybe not that many people would know about because everybody thinks of Mykonos and Santorini and all those?
Well, I'll give you two things you should do. One is you should go to Milos. Milos is stunning. It's almost like the most beautiful beaches you've ever seen, like gorgeous, gorgeous. Some of the most beautiful beaches are on Milos, and it has the rock formations. You almost feel like you're on the moon. It's gorgeous. Then if you do go to Mykonos, because if you're going for your first time, you got to go to Mykonos, go to a restaurant called Spilia, which means the cave. And it's Spilia, Spilia. It is so cool. In the winter, when the weather comes and the water gets higher, the restaurant is completely covered by water. Like, you can't actually access where the restaurant is. So you can only eat at it in the summertime, and it's the best seafood, the setting. There's a DJ that starts around 3 or 4 in the afternoon, and it's just magical. And you can't eat there in the wintertime because it's covered with water. It's a sunken cave.
That's out of this world. So Dana and I have gotten to experience the Greek islands once. We went a few years ago, like a year after we started dating. We planned this whole big trip, and we did Mykonos. We did Athens, and then Mykonos and Santorini, and then Paris, which is cool as well. But like, those Greek islands do feel like you're on a whole different world. Like, it's a different planet. It's really, really cool. I think Spia, is that how you said it?
Spilia.
Okay, you pronounce it. I'm gonna edit this to just replay your pronunciation over and over again.
Spiglia, spiglia, spiglia.
But I think my friends Alex and Allie might have just gone there for their honeymoon. The name looks familiar. But it's absolutely beautiful there. So perfect, cool. All right, I'm itching to get back to Greece already. And then, what's your absolute favorite food to pair with your 21 Seeds drinking?
It's got to be chips and guac. Chips and guac. Can't beat it.
And then finally, besides getting kind of entrenched in the endless agave fields, what is the second coolest thing that you have done on your Mexican visits?
I would say the gardens. So there are these gardens. The Jose Cuervo family is a really important family down in Mexico. You know, I mean, but they've done so much. I think they have a different reputation here in the States. That you think about like just Jose Cuervo and tequila, which is maybe thought of as not premium or whatever.
So they're like the Kardashians down there? No, I'm just kidding.
Like they're really, really cool, and they have done a lot for the tequila industry, just the culture, and like really, you know, embedding it in terms of like having it be part of like when you think of Mexico, you think about tequila, but a lot of that was done by this family, and they have these gorgeous gardens there that you can tour in the town of Tequila, and they're really, really beautiful and definitely worth seeing.
Perfect. They need to start paying you as like a tequila brand travel guide ambassador. Because awesome. I'm itching to go there as well. Well, Kat, thank you so much. This has been awesome, and just I can't say it, but absolutely love your product and brand and your company, everything that you've done, and you're just an awesome, amazing person. So this has been really, really fun. And you've now made it through my trademark quickest rapid fire in history. You could tell I'm very rapid with the questions. Where is the best place for people to try out 21 Seeds? And also if they want to just learn more or connect with you?
Absolutely. First thing you should all do is immediately follow us on Instagram. Super simple. It's just 21 and the word seeds. Not very hard. And
it's got an @ symbol in front of it.
It's got an @ symbol. It's the legal drinking age is 21, so you can't forget that.
Yeah.
So follow us on Instagram, and we always put out all of our delicious recipes are there. Anything going on with the brand, any Kardashian that's drinking it is on 21 Seeds. So
Perfect.
All of that is found on our Instagram. And then, of course, if you go to our website and you happen to have seen a fun recipe on our Instagram that you want to then follow up on and it disappeared because it was in a reel or story, go to 21seeds.com. And we have a blog on our website that has all of our recipes and big batch recipes for the same recipes and all kinds of fun stuff and party ideas. And so definitely find us there. And we also have a finder where you can find where, you know, you could buy 21 Seeds. We sell in most major retail stores across the country, but locally where you could find it maybe in some of the smaller ones.
Perfect. And if you want to try it yourself as fresh as possible, then just go straight to Tequila, Mexico. No.
Exactly.
Awesome. And then last thing, final thought, stage is yours. It could be a quote, just like a motto, words to live by, whatever you want. Send us home here.
So, you know, I got some great advice once from a man I really deeply respect on how to be successful in business. And he said, Kat, find a parade and get in front of it. And so I just, you know, I said, listen, I see this tequila parade that's going on out there. I'm going to get in front of that parade with our infused tequila, our 21 Seeds infused tequila, and march it right up on into Diageo, and success will follow.
Tequila on parade. Thank you so much, Kat, for coming on the podcast, coming up with the tequila in the first place, rocking it with your fellow sister and girlfriend co-founder. And thank you, wild listeners, for coming. Well, thank you for coming on. And thank you, wild listeners, for tuning in to another episode. If you want to hear more wild stories like this one, make sure to follow the Wild Business Growth Podcast on your favorite podcast spot and tell a friend about the podcast. And then try out 21 Seeds and leave them a rating out of 21 Seeds. You can also find us on Good Pods, where there are fantastic podcasts and podcast recommendations. And for any help with podcast production, you can learn more at MaxPodcasting.com. Hasta la vista. Let your business run wild.
Bring on the bongos!